I would press play on that one, and then I would do the next thing on the other boombox and record into that one. And I would keep going back and forth until I created like a track. I guess I was creating like my own like 8-track and multi-track of layering things. And I didn't even know what it was, but I was just so excited that I was doing it. And my whole career has been a version of that. Like I have no training. I'm not good at anything. I'm really I know people are like, oh, you're being humble. I'm really not great at anything. I have like a ultimate will to get things done. Like I'm like, this will happen. But no, it's just I'm always trial and error. And I always tell people are always just like, well, how did you do this? How did you? And I'm like, honestly, like just going in and I call it making a mess. I like to go in and throw a bunch of shit around the room, throw paint at everything. And then we worry about cleaning it up later. But maybe a few of those things just happen to land correctly. And I just keep doing that until everything fully lands where I want it to. And I'm just playing cleanup around the sides.
That's a beautiful way of describing the process. But what gave you that? Where does that will or that confidence come from? Because I think a lot of people are scared of creating a mess or scared of things not sticking, so they never try. Whereas it sounds like you're the opposite, where you're like, well, I don't care if it doesn't try. I'm willing to give it a go. Where does that inner confidence, that inner ability to say, hey, it's okay, come from?
I don't care about failure at all. I don't care. And I never did. I think when I was younger, I didn't understand what failure was. Like when you're 6, when you're 7, when you're 12, there's not many people to let down. You know what I mean? You let down Timmy at school. He's your friend. Sorry, Timmy. But you're not thinking about that. And I just remember from the beginning, like my mom was like, I wanted to drop out of school. And my mom was raising me alone, and I was probably 15, 16 at the time. And I was like, Mom, I know what I want to do. She's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, the music stuff. Like, I'm so into it. And I know, and I looked at her and I go, I know I'm going to be the biggest in the world. And she was just like, what do you, and I've asked my mom like later in life, like, how did you like trust me in my journey? And she always said that she had dreams that she never got to try in her life. And a lot of people are just way too scared to take the jump. A lot of people may have, I'm sure everyone in this room, anyone listening has a little something where they're like, oh, I really like that. But they're scared. They're like, I want to post videos of me cooking online. No one will like it. My friends will make fun of me. I sing in the shower. Like no. Because we're taught to just follow suit and do whatever you're supposed to do. You report to your boss, but it doesn't have to be like that. Like if you want to try to be like a musician, an entrepreneur, whatever, it's scary. And like, I'm sure you've had moments like that where you're like, yo, what am I doing? But if you do try, I believe that if you keep pushing yourself and you keep trying, you're going to succeed. And I always tell people this, it may not be in what you start with, Like when I started, I thought I was going to be the biggest rap artist in the world. And am I a rapper now? No. And then I moved into producing, and then I moved into songwriting, and then it's come full circle now where I'm like an artist of some sorts again. And I think you just jump in and just try something. Just try, and who cares? If you're gonna fail, who cares if you fail? I don't understand. That's the thing I don't understand. It's just, you just get up and you do it again. I have amnesia the second I fail. The second I fail, I'm like, the next day I wake up, I'm like, all right, let's do it again.
That's an amazing mindset. So we share something in common already. We both grew up wanting to be famous rappers.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
No.
That was like my passion, like poetry, spoken word, writing lyrics. Like all I listened to was hip hop and rap growing up. Like if you asked me at 16 years old what I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to be. And it's so interesting because today I feel I use the same skills that I wanted to use then, but in a completely different way.
Yeah.
I still write. I write books instead of records. Yeah. I teach meditation, which includes music. It includes cadence. It includes rhyme often, but not in the way that a rapper would. Yeah. And I'm using spoken word constantly to get messages out into the world, but in a different way. And so I love what you just said about that idea of how you actually may succeed, but in a way completely different to what you originally dreamed of.
I hope it goes full circle for you. I want to hear, I need to hear the Jay Shetty rap tape. What was your rap name?
Oh God, I don't know if I need to go that far.
Okay,
It was embarrassing, but I'll tell you later.
Okay,
I'll tell you
later.
privately. Yeah,
Tell me later.
I'll tell you privately.
Is Jay Shetty your real name?
Yes.
It's that's the perfect rap
Is
name.
it?
Yeah, Jay Shetty sounds like a fire rapper.
Really?
Yeah, from like East London.
Okay, I'm from North London, so not far.
All right.
Yeah, not far. Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. But no, I really appreciate what you're saying there, and I think that amnesia to failure. Wow, like I love that idea of having amnesia with failure. Can you give me a time? Was that always the case, or was there a failure that like did kind of pierce that veil? It never has. I can see from your face.
No, I remember when I was gonna quit music one time right before I made it. My mentor passed away. He took his own life, and I was really young. It was one of my best friends, and I'm probably like 18. And I remember like sitting in my bed, and I was like crying. I like didn't understand. It was one of the first times that somebody who wasn't supposed to die died. I've had like, I'd lost my grandmother and lost my grandfather, but it was like the first time in my life where like someone that like I really knew and really touched me, and I talked to them the day before they died. And it's like I remember like that hitting me like so hard in a way that I didn't know was even possible. Like, I'd been sad. But I remember sitting there in bed, and I was just like, I'm just gonna quit. I was like, I gotta quit making music. And then in that very same moment, like my head flipped, and I was just like, no, you can't. You gotta like take on what this dude started. Cause he was also a musician, and he didn't get totally, he was well known and he was a hero to me, but he didn't get where I think he deserved to. And I remember being like, I gotta do this. Like, I gotta, like, he would want me to be doing this. And that was like the only time where it wasn't even failure. It was like the only time where I like really questioned things. But don't get me wrong. Every time I do something good in life, I'm questioning. But it's like a different feeling. I don't know if you have this, but I'll have a number one song, like a number one song. It's the biggest song in the whole world. And I'll like look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh, that's the last one. Like, definitely not going to have another number one song again. Not saying I'm like scared of the failure. I'm just like, oh, that's just like the last one. That's what I did. Or something really good will happen in my life. And I'm like, oh, I'll never recreate that again. But in the same breath, I'm like, let's go. Like, I'm like, let's keep rolling, And I've tried to do this thing lately in the last like 5 or 10 years where I really like take in my achievements. Cause for a while, I never thought of them. I would just keep going. Like when it was time, they'd be like, oh, your song's number one. I'd be like, okay, that's cool. What are we doing next week? And I figured out like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to like take a breath and be like, yo, we just did this shit. Like, this is tight. Like, we did this. This is great. And yeah, I'm trying to do that more. And failure, like, no, I've never had one of those times, because whenever I do fail, I'll sit and obviously like I'll sit there and I'll be like, this didn't work how I wanted it to. But so many times have been the opposite, where I was like, this will never work. And then it's big. So it's like, I feel like it always evens out. And you only have one other choice. It's like, your only choice is just to keep going. What are you supposed to do? Just be like, oh, it didn't work. No, get up and you do it again.
Yeah, I've got so many questions. I want to dive into so much that you said. So rewinding with your mentor, how did you first, and I'm so sorry to hear, thank you for sharing with us, such a challenging event. And I lost my mentor 4 years ago. He passed away from stage 4 brain cancer during the pandemic. So I couldn't go back to see him because I couldn't take a flight. And so I couldn't be at his funeral. So, it was super rough for me. It was more recent, but how did you meet your mentor and how did you form a bond? I think a lot of successful people have mentors, they have guides, they have teachers, they have coaches. But then sometimes when you're listening to a conversation, you're like this, you're like, I want someone to be my mentor, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to find them. Like, what does that mean? Like, how did you connect?
I've had so many mentors. I have mentors every day. I'm a mentor to people, but sometimes my mentees are my mentor. Like, I'm always you always gotta be open to just listening and learning. Every day I learn something. I was in the studio yesterday with a guy who was one of my mentees. Like, the way I gotta tell you that story later.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane. I'll go to that. I'll tell that after. First one is I met my mentor. I was This is when he was like my second or third mentor. I met a lot of my really important mentors in my life when I was about 13. I was a musician. I was traveling for music at the time. I had gotten like some buzz, and MySpace was a thing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember MySpace. Yeah.
And I had somehow created a profile where I had a bunch of followers. Okay. So I don't even remember how I did it, but I was a kid. I used to do it in the library at school. And there was this guy, he was a producer. I was obsessed with him. I messaged him, the equivalent of DM today.
Yeah.
And I remember messaging him, and I was like, "I love your stuff, blah, 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 blah." And then no response. And I was like, "Oh, I love you, like, please, blah, blah, blah." No response. Then I saw, like, a few weeks later, he was advertising. He was like, "I have studio time available. It's like, $500 or something." And I remember just being like, "Okay, the only way I'm gonna meet this guy is if I get the studio time." So I say, "I'm interested in the studio time." He says, "Great. Come to New York and meet me here." He had no idea where I was. I drove to New York, and we drove like 4 hours to New York. I get to New York. I get in with him. The first thing I say is, I'm like, "I don't really need studio time. I just want to talk to you. Please, I'll do anything. I just want to work with you. I'll do whatever you say." But then he was just like, this was insane. He said, "I'm leaving this weekend. I need my studio booked the whole weekend. It's $850 for the 2 days. You need to book it. If you can book it, I'll let you work for me."
Wow.
I called every single person I know. I spent I had like a few $100. Then like I would like beg my friends for money. I had like knew a few rappers at the time that wanted studio time. And I like figured it out. And he was just like, he got back. I did it. Like, I just did it in the nick of time. And he was just like, "All right, you can work. You start next week." And I would drive up every weekend from Virginia to work with him from when I was like 16, 17. And we created this bond, and it was like he was tough on me. It was like he was like not an easy guy. Like, I remember like I walked in, and I had a hard drive filled with all of my music, okay, everything I had been making. And he like took it, he listened to it, he ejected it, and then he threw it out the window. He threw my hard drive out the window, broke into a million pieces. No more hard drive. And he was like, "Not good enough. Start again." And it was like, yeah, he was like super sensei. It was like Karate Kid. And I like hated him in the moments for it. But he taught me so many things that like I learned, and taught me things not to do as a mentor. And it was a really special time. And now I just want to jump to this. Okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go on. I love it. Let it flow.
So I'm, this is, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago. And I'm playing poker at a friend's house. And my friend puts me on her story, her Instagram story. And the next day she comes to me and she said, "Hey, my friend's son saw you on my story, and apparently you're like a big deal in music." And she was just like, "You have to have him come work for you." And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, you have to have him come work for you." I was like, I don't need anyone else. I already have assistants, interns." And they were like, "No, you have to." And this lady is like there isn't really, you don't get to have a choice. So I was like, "All right, I'll meet him." So this kid comes in. He's 15 years old. He's like, like everything, like he's just so excited. And he like was so sweet, and he reminded me of me when I was a kid. He was like, "I'll do anything. I'll work for you, blah, blah, blah." I was like, "All right, come work for me." He comes and works for me. I still like am spending a lot of time in New York at the time. And so I don't see him. He's just like building a studio for me, and has never even met me besides that one day.
Wow.
But he does it for like a year. Then like I finally come back to LA, and I'm like, "All right, you ready to come into some recording studios?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm so excited." So like, first week, first 3 sessions, his first session is The Weeknd, his second section is Travis Scott, and like his third session was like Maroon 5. So it's like he's getting thrown into it. So I remember we're at the first session and I'm just like, be cool, blah, blah, blah. It's The Weeknd. And The Weeknd's in there and we're like all in a room and we're just like singing into microphones, like we're chilling. And he's like, I know his mind's blown. Weeknd's his favorite artist at the time. And I remember when no one's looking, he like sneaks a picture and he accidentally has his flash on. So it goes, and it has the noise too. And so it was like, and when it did it, he went, and he threw his phone. and somehow The Weeknd didn't notice. And like, I pulled him aside after and I'm like, dude, you can't do that. Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, he's in high school. And I say, hey, I was in the middle of making Ed Sheeran's Divide album. And I was producing the whole thing. And I was like, I need some help on the road. If I talk to your school and get you off, will you come? And he was like, yeah, of course. Took him on the road for like 2 weeks. Mine was blown. Then, he starts going to NYU Clive Davis School of Music. And I have another opportunity. I talk to his teachers. I take him on the road for like a month. We're on tour with Halsey. Then he's coming back to work for me now, okay? We've never talked about him making music at all. And we're sitting there one day. It's late at night. And he said, my therapist said he's going to stop working with me if I don't play you my music. I said, what do you mean you make music? And he's like, yeah, I make music. I was like, why didn't you ever play it for me? He's like, I was so scared. I was trying to get better, blah, blah, blah. He plays me some songs. They're terrible. They're awful. But like I can hear something in him. And I know he's so, in music, so much of it is like getting an artist to feel comfortable, getting them to believe, getting them to, so much of it is your personality. And he had that. He had the it factor. I saw when he was with like artists, he knew how to talk to them. He knew how to make them feel good, just like getting them food, everything. And he spent years just seeing how I did it with artists. And I decided to sign him. I was like, I'm going to sign you. And he went on this journey and now he's one of the biggest music producers in the world. I mean, last year he won, best record at the Grammys. He's had like 5 or 10 #1 records. And it's like, this guy started, he was so humble. He was 15 years old. Now he's like probably 26, 27. And he just went on the journey. He knew when his time was and he went in and he did it. And it was just like, I always tell people, you just got to stick through it. You got to stick around, And when I first signed him, it wasn't working for him. It took him like a few years for it really to like connect. And he's just like, it's such a fun story for me.
That's a brilliant story.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to have that a few different times in my life with people. And it was so cool because I had that experience and we're all, to pay it forward is just...
Yeah, the intern applications to the Benny Blanco School of Music just went through the roof. Like now the amount Reed's gonna get hit up this whole week, and dude, I love that. No, it's beautiful to hear that, and also what I love about that message is when your mentor throws your hard drive outside the window, like it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm never going back.
Yeah,
he's crazy. Like I'm never going back. Yeah. It's like whiplash.
Oh yeah,
right. Like
that was my life. I was cleaning toilets with a toothbrush. Like that was my real life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when you were describing it. I felt exactly like that. I'm thinking, but how do you show up again and recognize this value? Because I think now we're in a place as well where it's like if something like that happened, we'd be like, oh no, get out of there. It's
I know. It did change a little bit. Like
you wouldn't do that. That's what I mean. You wouldn't throw someone's hard drive.
No, I would never do those type of things. I'm just like not that type of person. I'm not like a yelling person. I'm not same. Like it's just like that's not my way of communication. Like if I was like sad about something, I'd be like, man, I think it's like probably almost worse. Like I'd be like, why you do that? You know what I mean?
I go quiet.
Yeah. Or I'd be like, if you're ever like in an argument in a relationship, like I'm not a yeller. I'm like a, oh man, like I wish it was different. And I like can't even find the words usually at the beginning. And I think that's how I am. And I think like I really learned that you don't have to do that stuff. It worked for me. It got me to where I am, but it's like, you can be really positive. You can be a good influence on someone. You don't have to you can be hard on someone. Like I'm definitely I was definitely hard on the guy I was talking about, Blake. I was tough on him, but I was never I would never be mean. I would never there's no reason to do that. And what made me keep going back, I don't know, sheer just will and drive. That's I just was that's what they're trying to do. They want me to quit. They want me to, and I don't know. I don't know why I do it. And I wonder, sometimes I sit in bed and I'm like, why am I still working so hard? I still work like I've never done a thing in my life. I'm still wake up every morning. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, and then I swear I'm gonna get this thing. And that's why I try to do different things that I'm not necessarily great at not that I'm not great at, but that I don't have, in music, I can go in, I can work with anyone, I can do this. But making a cookbook, being in a TV show, I've never done these things. So it's very interesting to me to start at the bottom again and just try to work my way up.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love the climb. That's my favorite part about life.
Yeah.
Even everything, in a relationship, when you meet that person at the very beginning, and it's I gotta make my way into their heart and they have to make their way into mine. And it's just all about, I don't know, getting there is always the best. And then when you're there, I'm just all right. What else can I want to get some, you know what I mean? So when you're you do the music stuff and you get there and you're I think the only thing where you get there and it just keeps getting better is in a relationship with someone. I think that's the only time you get there and you're okay, this is cool. But when every other time I'm just okay, cool. Let's go.
What do you think makes relationships different that makes you feel that way as opposed to music? Or anything else, any other achievement, not music.
Well, I've never been in a relationship the way that I've been in one with music because it's been a 30-year relationship. So I have no idea what happens 30 years from now in a relationship. But I just feel in a relationship is all these other things I'm doing. There's so many tentacles. It's you go this way and then you guys explore that together. And you're exploring so many, it's basically anything I would explore in my life, I'm exploring with a partner. And so it's figuring out, you guys are figuring out things together. And it's so cool when you have a partner that I don't know, I just get the feeling it's awesome when you can have a partner that you look at and it's the end of the day and you're oh, what did you do today? And they tell you and you're that's so tight. And you're I want to do more. When you can feed off of each other and just keep growing together, it's every day is a new experience and you guys are facing different things together and it's, I don't know, it's cool. And I always tell my friend, I was just talking to my friend yesterday about this. I was you always have to keep your work and life balance. And I was because you can feel it in the music and art if you don't have love or you don't have something. So I always tell them, I always feel that it's just this. I have rules, every day, I only work till a certain time. I make sure cooking is very important to me and therapeutic. So I make sure I do that. It's Xanax to me. I have all my things that I have to do to make that balance because I do push myself. I shove my head through that wall, just that drywall if I had to. But at the same time, I try to do all the things. It's okay, every Sunday I see my mom no matter what. Every single Sunday at the exact same time. It doesn't matter if I stay up all night. I'll just go right into seeing her. And it's just we have a ritual we do. And then I have my ritual where I go and get my groceries at the farmer's market every weekend. And there's just all these things that help keep you on track and grounded so you can keep doing what you're doing, I mean, I'm sure you have things like that for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, mine's similar. I call my mom at the same time every week because she's back in London where I was born and raised. And so I have the same time I call her on the weekend. And there's certain things that have to be done that way. And same with you. And, I have a certain time as well that I switch off from work and I'm not looking at my phone. I have a time in the morning. I have 3 hours of being awake before I'm doing any work. And I have to take that time for myself. But what's interesting about what you're saying is that there's a myth, obviously, that the broken-hearted artist can pour into the music, but you're actually saying that if you have love in your life, that can also be felt through music.
Yeah, I think that at times it's good to have a broken heart, but it's also good. You know, there's a time and place for everything. What time you wake up?
I wake up now at 5:30 a.m.
What time do you wake up before?
Usually it was like this year has been different. This year I've been really prioritizing 5:30, but up until last year it's probably like 6 to 6:30.
And what time do you go to bed?
I go to bed at like 9 p.m. now.
Really?
Yeah, I love my 8 hours of sleep. So
Oh,
like
wow.
if I get into bed at 9, I'll be out by 9:15.
Okay.
And then if I wake up at 5:30, I've had like 8 hours and 15
yeah.
minutes of sleep. Like it's
What are
crazy.
you doing? What are you doing in those first 3 hours?
Meditating for a lot of it. So I'll wake up at 5:30. I'll be ready to sit down for meditation by like 5:45. I'll meditate for an hour and a half. And then 7:15, I'll go for a hike or go to the gym, or usually a hike or the gym from 7:15 till about 8:15, 8:30, get ready. And then 9 a.m. I'll take my first emails, meetings, all that kind of stuff. So I think you came at 10 today. So
Yeah. Hour and a half.
11.
Hour and a half is that's a good meditation. Hour and a half. How do you even stay focused?
Well, I think it's a good question. And I always say to people that when I started, it wasn't 1.5 hours. Like you start up with doing like 7 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes. And what I found was just in the same way as if you go to a trainer at the gym, you'd hope that they work out more than you. So as someone who teaches meditation and helps people with mindfulness, I believe that as a trainer and as a coach, I have to do it for more time and deeper time, because otherwise, if I'm only doing it for 7 minutes and I'm mentoring you and you're only doing it for 7 minutes, then how will I ever have an experience to guide you deeper? And so I've been doing that since I was 18 now. So it's been a long time. And when I was a monk for 3 years, it was longer. And that's where I got that deepest experience of practice for it. So I feel like if I didn't have those 3 years of going really deep into the practice, I may not have the focus I have today.
You were a monk?
For 3 years, yeah.
Like a real monk?
A real monk, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I've never met a monk.
I'll have to show you pictures.
I've never even met a monk.
Yeah, I'll have to show you. I'm not anymore, but yeah.
How long?
So you still haven't met a monk.
When was this?
So this was 2010 to 2013, and I was a monk across India, UK, and Europe. I traveled between the three, and I had a shaved head. I wore robes. I slept on the floor. We meditated for like 4 to 8 hours sometimes a day, and so it was a deeper practice. Yeah,
standard 8 hours. Standard 8-hour meditation is crazy. When do you do anything else?
Well, sometimes you didn't. That was the point. Like,
an 8-hour meditation is wild.
Yeah,
isn't that sleeping?
Yeah. I mean, you can count it as the same. That we sleep for 8 hours. So.
Yeah, the hardest part for me with meditating is that I instantly fall asleep.
Good.
I can fall asleep very easily.
So I'll tell you why, though. The reason why that happens during meditation or any practice of that sort is your body and mind are finally coming into sync. Yeah. And so it's your body saying, I need sleep right now.
Yeah.
And so if you're falling asleep during meditation, it's not a bad thing. It's just you've literally, because what's happening when you're not falling asleep is your mind saying, we got to do more. We got to do more. And then finally, when you become present, you fall asleep because your body's saying, I've done enough today.
Oh. Wait, so where do you do these meditations?
I have a little meditation room. I'll take you to afterwards at our home. Yeah,
I want to do a meditation with you.
All right, we'll do it. Yeah.
I want to learn. I've done it. There was like a time in my life when I was going through a rough patch, and then like, I was going to therapy and I was meditating and stuff, and it actually helped me so much.
Yeah, wow.
It helped me.
What was that during? What were you going through?
When everything first started happening for me all at once, it was like really overwhelming. I was, for the first like year or two, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then like it really hit me because, so many different responsibilities and people asking you for money. And like, I just didn't grow up in a way like I didn't even imagine, I was young when I made it. So I was like, I didn't even realize about like money. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have this, what do I do with it? Like, and then it's like, I have all this success and people need things from me and people want, and it was just too much. And where I grew up, like, I didn't like, I don't know, I didn't go to like therapy as a kid. I didn't know about any of that. I didn't know what anxiety was. I thought like I was like, oh, the room spins for everyone when you like sit down and you're like doing something. Yeah, there were so many things I didn't understand, and I thought it was just my body, and I never talked to anyone about it. And I was like, oh, they're just things like I learned to live with. And I remember I just remember exactly where I was. I was like walking in to get a new cell phone. I lost my mind, and I and I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember like a week later, I went home to Virginia where my mom was living at the time, and I remember I was like in the bathroom, and I was like, like I don't, I can't do. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't. I can't. I had this feeling, like this crazy feeling of anxiety that was like crippling, and it was like I couldn't do anything, and I was just like I was like in the bathtub, and I remember like calling for mom. I was crying, and I was like, I don't know. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I can't even explain the feel. I didn't know how to articulate the words. I was like, I can't even explain what I'm feeling to you. I feel like I'm going crazy, and in my family, there's some people have some issues, and I was always scared of myself falling into some similar things that are in my family, that run in my family. And I I just remember somebody got me to go to therapy, and I met this guy, and he's my therapist today, still to this day. He's been my therapist for almost 20 years.
Mm.
And I remember like I first went there, and I had like all these things. I was like, I used to like go, and I'd have to like hold my head like this. And I was like, well, I can't let go of my arm, because if I let go of my arm, my neck's gonna fall off, and I'm gonna be paralyzed. Like I had like great, like I was so in deep, and I never thought I was gonna get out. And I remember I used to go 6 days a week, and then it was like 3 days a week, then it was 2 days, then it was one. And it was CBT, cognitive behavioral
Mhm,
therapy. And
mhm.
it's like kind of like a type of therapy where you use your words, and it's not, I didn't want to do medicine, and I didn't, because I also had in my family, there's some drug abuse and stuff. And I I was like, I don't want to do this with medicine. I want to figure out how to do it the right way. And at that time I wasn't. Now I'm like a workout fanatic. That's like my new meditation.
Nice.
But before that, I was like, well, how do I do this? And I started, my therapist recommended meditation to me, and he had this really easy way of doing it, and it was so easy, and it wasn't even like anything specific. He was like, just, he would just like it was the most basic form of meditation. I would do it with either with a spoken word thing, or just like he'd be like, find the most calming music you like. and
Mm,
and I
mm.
would and he would just be like, no matter what, just every day, he was like, for 20 to 30 minutes, just sit down, put a pillow on your head, try not to be too comfy where you'll fall asleep, set a timer, and just do it.
Mm.
And I remember doing it, and at first it was impossible. When I was like in my shit, it was impossible. And then eventually I started like looking forward to that time
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
And it really just helped me a lot. And then like in 2018, and then I got like, it was probably like a year or so and this was probably 2009, maybe this was happening. And then I like got back on track, and everything was great. And then in 2018, I really like w- working out became like my new
Oh,
meditation. Like,
wow.
and it was just like I have to do it. And it was so funny because I went so many years without doing it. And I'm sure in your life you went years without doing meditation. And
Yeah.
now, like, what happens if you randomly do you ever miss one ever? Like, just like if you're
I'll
sick or
catch
you're
up. I won't. Yeah, I don't meditate at 5:30 every day. Like it's not. I can't keep that up because I'm
yeah.
on planes. We're
Yeah, yeah,
traveling.
yeah.
Like our lifestyles don't allow it, and so I will be meditating in the evening.
But like,
So
what
the
happens?
quality. Well, I find that for me the quality dips. So the last week was one of those weeks. I had like 3 massively late nights in a row on the weekend because of events and parties and things that I was going to. And I couldn't wake up early. And then I still had a full day of work. And then in the evening, I was catching up with
Yeah.
it. And I found that I didn't have the time and space that I need in order to feel really aligned. And what I mean by that is I can still operate, no one else will really notice the difference, but I notice the difference where I'm like, I feel like I have less energy today. I feel like I have less clarity today. And I feel like I'm not as aligned is the best word I can think of as I like to be. And so it doesn't really affect anyone else, but it does affect me. And
Yeah.
I know what level I can
Yeah.
raise
Yeah.
to, which is what you're probably saying when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
working out. Like when you miss a day of working out,
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
feel now?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought of something when you were
Yeah,
saying that.
please.
So you're seen as like you know, this guy who's like mindfulness, health, this like isn't it? Aren't you sometimes? Do you feel like I have to be so perfect all the time?
It's so interesting you say that, Benny. I used to think that when I started out that's what I had to be, and then I've let go of that pressure personally. Like I let go of that, and I'm just like I'm saying to you now. I don't wake up every day at 5:45 to meditate. Sometimes I'm meditating on planes, in Ubers, on trains. Sometimes I'm doing it while I'm falling asleep. Like I'm okay with opening up about that because to me, that I hope. Well, it's the truth. B, I hope that actually helps people realize that they don't have to have the perfect regime every single day. Because I used to think that, and all it did was put more pressure on myself. Like I'd stress myself out. So I'm more comfortable today saying, I believe in meditation. I value mindfulness. I value all these things, but it doesn't look perfect in my life. And it won't in yours either. And it doesn't in anyone's. Whoever's life we think it looks perfect in is a myth.
Yeah, sometimes you get upset. Like if you get like you're like a guy who's like not allowed to get upset. Like something happens. Like I find that sometimes.
What do you know, Benny? What are you trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. No, I find sometimes in work, like, when you get to the top of like your field, people are only expecting like a perfect like if you're like, say you're like LeBron James, like if you score like 20 instead of like 40 in the game, they're like, oh, what's happening to LeBron, and it's this pressure that I know exists for people, and I just wanted to know.
I definitely have felt that pressure, and I think I've removed it from myself. And that's what I realized, that ultimately it was a pressure I was putting on myself. It wasn't actually from anyone else. It was me thinking, whereas if I was just honest and transparent and authentic with people, then all of a sudden the pressure's off. And I can also be a human because I am one. And I think there's so much more of a joy in embracing our imperfections and flaws and recognizing that. It's even with coaching people, by the way, and I'm sure you feel this with music. Like when you working with a artist to produce their album is like what I do with coaching clients. So coaching clients come to me and say, hey, can we solve this problem? Whatever else it may be. Someone's coming to you saying, hey, Benny, can you make this album with me? And before I used to think, God, if I don't say something profound in the first hour of meeting someone, then they're not going to think I'm worthy or valuable. And I started to realize, I was like, that blocked me from saying something worthy. It didn't allow me to be a channel or a vessel. I was now forcing some manufactured version. And even if I did, now I was just setting myself up for more pressure every time we met, rather than just having a flowing exchange with someone. How do you feel like when an artist comes and says, hey, Benny, I want you to produce my whole album? Where was the time it switched from pressure to just flow?
I never had pressure because I don't care. Because I treat every experience, like I'll be like this. Some people, when you get in the studio, there's something, or you're on a TV set, or you're on here, they're just like, oh, we got to get it all done. We have to get this done today. We have to. For me, I'm just as happy if we were to come in. Like if I came into this podcast today and you're like, hey, I'm sorry, like the equipment's not working, then I'd be like, oh, let's just like chill, walk around your thing, because that's what was meant to happen that day. And I'm not stressing, because you know what? Eventually we'll get like an interview, or eventually we'll get a song, or, I'm a big like procrastinator in work. Like when someone comes over, I'm like, you like to eat? What do you want to eat? You want to eat something? I'll eat something. All that stuff is part of it. It's part of what's going to happen later. You know what I'm saying? Or you like, let's say you have a client, someone like you're trying to get to the bottom or the root of a problem. You're going to have to disarm them and get them to chill.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not going to happen through anything else. What's your, do you have a setup process for every person, or do you really go with the flow with each individual?
This stuff got caffeine in it?
It has natural caffeine from tea.
I'll take a sip of it.
Yeah.
It's green tea. Green tea is really caffeinated, right?
Yeah, it's natural.
You drink caffeine?
I only in the tea form.
Only in the tea form.
Yeah.
I
so
like that.
I don't
only
drink
in the tea form.
As in, like, I drink herbal tea and I drink this tea, but I don't.
That's good.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. My wife and I put it together. It's all natural.
Go buy his drink. How'd you come up with the name?
It stands for Just You and I. So it was a way of trying to bring people together through sharing a moment. How's the caffeine hitting? Is it all right?
I'm taking little sips. I don't drink caffeine at all.
Yeah. Neither do I, apart from tea. So
yeah, I don't drink I'm not like a caffeine person. I wake up and I'm like ready to
Yeah,
rip.
me too.
I wake up, I like pop out of
What time
bed
do you wake up?
early.
Yeah?
Yeah, like 6.
What-
Usually 6:10 to 6:30.
Yeah. What gets you in the creative zone? Like you're always like cooking. Like let's talk about open wide for a second. Like creativity, I think people look at you and they think, oh, he's musically creative, but then the rest
Yeah.
of his life must be.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
no, it's like you're creative in cooking, you're creative in music. Obviously, you're talking about relationships can be creative too. Like, is it just something that was cooking always a passion?
Yeah, it's just like, do you cook at all or no?
So I'm the exact opposite. Cooking, kitchens and cooking scares me. My wife is a plant-based chef and recipe developer.
Really? Oh
And
my
so-
God.
Yeah, this
What-
is all she does.
What has she always cooked?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's loved it since she was, and she's a dietitian and nutritionist as well.
What's her name?
Radhi. Radhi's her name. Radhi. Radhi.
And okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. I got to see it.
I'll show you
I'm
after
obsessed with all that. One of my friends, the person who I wrote my book with, her name's Jess. She has like she's predominantly like a plant-based chef, and
Oh,
she worked
cool.
for Martha Stewart for years,
Wow.
and she's incredible. And I it's funny, like my books are always crazy. I eat very healthy unless I'm being like a naughty boy.
What's naughty? How bad's naughty?
Oh, naughty is like you wake up and there's crumbs and glaze all over you. You don't even know what it is. But mostly I'm like during the week, because I lost a lot of weight. I lost like 50 pounds.
Wow. Consciously.
Yes. Yeah. Not, honestly, at the beginning, I was going into a weight loss challenge because my brother had gained a bunch of weight. And then when I went and we like did the DEXA scan thing, I was 33% body fat. And I was like, well, am I fat? And I didn't even know that I was being unhealthy. And then like, that's when I started working out and I got obsessed with it. And it was like, I wasn't necessarily trying to lose weight, but then like once I did, I was like, whoa, this is cool. And I'm one of those people now, like when I lost the first weight, it wasn't trying to lose weight. It was just like trying to be healthy. And then I felt like the feeling every time I went to the gym. I was like, whoa, I have no anxiety like after, and I'm not thinking about anything else except like what's happening. And that was very rare for me. So I was like, I got to chase this feeling. And then now I like, me and my friends, we do like little like weight loss challenges. We're like, okay, whoever can lose the most weight in like 1 month or whoever can do this. I like to challenge my body and
out of your
mind.
comfort zone.
Yeah, I like to just like push myself in any way possible. But yeah, no, I do you eat pretty healthy?
Yeah, very, yeah.
Well, because of her, right?
Because of her.
If
exactly,
otherwise
yeah.
you'd be like,
Before I met her, it was like pizzas at midnight, burgers, fries.
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite food.
What are you guys eating today?
Obviously.
Like, what'd you eat today?
What did I have in the morning? I had like avocado, mushroom toast
Okay.
in the morning.
And did you make it or she did?
No, she did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So if she's not in town, do you
then
ever
I'm
cook?
I'm ordering in, but I'm ordering healthy.
You're ordering healthy because you're
yeah.
scared she might be filming you.
No,
or watching.
yeah, exactly. That's actually it. I'll say to my team, I'll be like, guys, just so you know, let's order this because my wife's not around. Yeah, no.
Yeah. You'll be a little naughty.
She's been a good influence on me because before I met her, I was addicted to sugar. Like I was addicted to chocolates and
some
ice
people
creams
have
and
that.
I had a massive because of my mom.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
always-
have
yeah.
this. I don't have the sweet tooth.
That's lucky, man. That's one
I'd
of the
much
worst.
rather like a huge slice of bread or a taco.
Yeah.
Like I really like one bite of a dessert. Like I always
You're
want.
like my wife. That's
Yeah,
her
I
too.
always want one bite. Like at the end of the day, like I'll always have like a date or something or like a piece of fruit. Like I love that, but like I don't like I don't know, like occasionally like a cookie or something if it's not too sweet. I don't like really sweet things. They make my stomach hurt.
Right.
Like, so I like, there's a few, like I like, what's that thing when it's like meringue, pavlova.
Right.
Because it's not too sweet
Yeah.
and it's like light. Pavlova makes me.
How did you curb your cravings for things you love? Like when you're doing a challenge, how do you curb your cravings?
I just shut it off. I love a challenge.
Right.
Just any challenge. If someone's like, I bet you can't walk 25 miles right now. I'm like, yes, I can. And I'll do it. Like, I love that feeling of doing something.
And you have a group of people that you do.
And I do it with my friends.
Yeah.
I work out with my friends. If I didn't have a trainer, I only pay. The only reason I see a trainer is because I'm so crazy that would be like, oh, I can't waste the money.
Yeah.
Like, so I gotta go. But if it was just up to me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do
same.
it. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just that someone's, or my friends are like, let's go to the gym. We got to go together and we work out together. And I like, coming back to food, I like anything I love community. I love hosting.
Mhm.
I love like
Same.
there's nothing better to me than like creating like an experience for people. I don't care what the medium is, like creating some experience where like when someone leaves, they're just like, whoa. And
Yeah.
they're telling all their friends. And like
Yeah.
for me,
Same.
it's just like this is like looking to give someone an orgasm face at all times.
Yeah.
Like every moment, like it because that's what it is. It's when someone tastes your food, they just like open their mouth and they put it in. You just want them to be like,
Yeah.
like you just want that feeling that or when someone plays a song, you want them to be like, oh my God, that thing is crazy. Like after you like change someone's life and they can do a meditation where they can like put their leg behind their head. They're just like, oh, thank you. You brought me to a higher sense of being. Like
Yeah.
it's that's what we're looking for.
Yes.
And I'm always looking to make my friends happy. I'm always, if someone comes to my house and they have like, a hamburger and they're like, I love this. This is my favorite hamburger. I know that. So then I'm thinking like the next time they come, I'm like, oh, I'm going to like make
Oh,
sure
that's
they have that
beautiful.
for them. And my grandma, when I was a kid, one of my grandmas, she was not wealthy by any means. She grew up in it, like, her place was in Section 8 housing, and we would go visit her. And she had a lot of grandkids. And if we went over there and one time we like had a Junie and we were like, we love this, it would be there every
Every
time we
time,
ever
yeah.
went. And she had so many grandkids. So everyone had every single thing. And she would, she wouldn't eat for the week to make sure that like everyone had their things. And because it made her so happy, the joy she would have when everyone was coming in and all the things were there. We'd be like, oh, she has this. And that's what I like to do. And I love to create like, whether it's like the perfect napkin, the perfect like meal, the perfect music playing at the same time. Like, and that's what I did with this book. I was like trying to teach people how to have like the perfect dinner party.
That's brilliant.
Because I was like, okay, some people, they might not know what to do. Like you're nervous in the kitchen. This book is going to make it so like surefire way. You want something easy that looks good? Great. You want to have a dinner party? Like, do you know what type of wine to serve? I don't know. Do you want to smoke weed with your people? Does weed make you anxious? Who knows? Is it midnight and you want everyone to leave because you got to wake up at 5:30 the next day, but you still want them to love you? I'm going to teach you how to kick them out, And it's just like,
I love that. Yeah.
It's that whole thing. And it's just like that moment of just like getting a bunch of people together. And I love getting the people together that don't necessarily go together.
Yeah.
And it's like someone is like a musician and they're sitting next to a man who wrote a book. And I mean, one time we were at my house and I remember I was, my mother was sitting here and SZA was sitting here and a man on the other side actually makes rocket ships that go to space. And to me, it was just so cool to see them all talking and not caring about, what was going on. And there was no egos and everyone's just having a good time. And food is like the best social lubricant in the world because it's like you can immediately talk about something. You're like, oh, you like food? It's just like the automatic conversation starter.
Yeah, yeah. Next time you come over, we're gonna have to do food for sure because it's a big love language for my wife. She always says that's her love language.
I want to cook with
she wants
her.
to. Yeah, you guys would have a blast. She loves cooking, creating recipes, and also same as you, creating community. And it's actually funny you say that. I'm trying to think of a book that you just reminded me of that was based on a restaurant that did that. And they recently converted it. It became 11 Madison Park in New York. And it was a restaurant that tried to give that level of care.
That's so cool.
That you feel in a home.
Yeah.
And so Open Wide, your book, I love that it's not just a cookbook. I love that it's about how to build community. And
it's all of that.
Because I think that's what people miss out on, right? We think that hosting is about all the fancy stuff. And it's like, it isn't. It's
not about any of that. The food, my godfather always said this thing. He would always say, when I was a kid, I never even understood it, but I so understand it now. He always used to say, we'd always figure out where we were going to dinner. And he goes, it doesn't matter. It's about the wrap.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you mean? He's like, it's just about the wrap. He's like, the only thing it's just to get everyone together. If the food's great, that's awesome. But it's about hanging with your friends, laughing till you cry, you know, falling in love with someone. You know, I've had the opportunity to have dinners where like so many things have happened to people. You know, someone's found the person they date. Somebody's, you know, started a company. Somebody's laughed so hard they cry, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I love, do you have dinners with people? And
well, it's one of my favorite things to host as well. Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah. I don't want to go out to a nightclub. I want to like sit at home with my friends till 2 a.m. Well, for you can't do that.
I can do that.
Now, what happens? What happens if you stay up late? Do you just self-combust? You combust?
No, not at all, man. I can stay up late. I just choose not to always do it because I love sleep.
Okay, when you were out late this weekend, what time were you out?
Yeah, probably getting to bed around 1 or 2.
Okay, and then what time do you sleep till?
Oh no, the problem was I was still waking up because my body clock's so wired that I was still up at the same time.
No matter what, I wake up at like 6 a.m.
That's what
no
I
matter
mean,
when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I don't go to bed as early as you though.
Yeah.
I'm like if in my dream world I go to bed at like 11:30, 12.
Right.
And then I wake up at like
in real world
6:30. And then on the weekends I really don't sleep a lot. But I don't need a ton of sleep. But
That's
I know
good,
I'm sure you're gonna say that's terrible for you.
No, not at all, man. I'm not gonna say anything's terrible. If it works for you, it works for you.
But I should be getting more sleep, right?
I mean, scientists say 7 to 9 hours a day.
What else do scientists say?
Exactly. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying.
My whole family.
I need 8. I know I need 8, and I can survive on. I can do fine on 6 or 5 if I needed to.
Like 6.5 is my like.
Is your sweet spot?
Yeah, chef's kiss. Anything over 7, I feel strange.
That's good though, but then don't follow it. 7, like don't push it. I think that's a big part of it too, right? It's like my wife talks a lot about this idea of being able to listen to your body. And I feel like so many of us are like, God, I got to wake up at 5:30 now because Jay said he wakes up at 5:30, or I got to wake up at 4 because Elon Musk wakes up at 4, or, you know, Benny said he wakes up at 6:10. So, so whatever it is. And it's like, well, creativity is not based on those things. That's just what works for your body and your mind. It's what works for my body and my mind. So I think, you know, but you seem to have a lot of like, not just community, but you seem to have like a lot of the same people around you, loyal friends. Like that seems to be a big part of your, how have you continued to be able to build that as you grow and make it? It sounds like all your friends love challenges and growth, because a lot of people who are listening sometimes feel their friends are not wanting to grow. They're not wanting to try new things.
But it's so fun. You do it. Some people I've pushed to that, and some people have pushed me in other ways. And like, that's what it's all about. You know, to me, I've just had some of my friends for so long because it's hard to find people that are on your, and I think it's harder and harder as you get older. You know, a lot of my friends, most of my friends I knew since I was young. And then I have like, you know, like a new friend for me is like 5 years. Like I'd be like, whoa, yeah, this is like one of my new friends. Like most of my friends are 8, 10, 20.
And do they live in the city too, or no?
All different places. Some of my friends are like, some of my friends have very regular jobs, and you know, some of them I only get to see once or twice a year in person because of their job. You know, my friend was just out here. He comes every year for, you know, like a month and a half towards the end of the year because he's a therapist and he works, you know, in Virginia, and he can't really travel that much. So then we get to see each other then. And then, you know, my other friend, his wife is becoming a doctor, and they've had to have residencies in all these other places, and he works for like Capital One or something, and we don't get to see each other in person very often, but when we do, it's like we saw each other yesterday, you know, and we talk all the time and then some of my friends are in the same world as me, so they get it. Some of them are in entertainment, and I just love bringing. My friend group is very eclectic. Like it's like all different types of people. And I love putting people that wouldn't normally be in a room together in a room to see what happens.
What's the randomest too? Is it the person building rocket ships and then your mom and then Scissor?
It's just like people, you know, it's very common for me to go out to dinner and have like one person be 22 and then the next person be like 70. Yeah. Like, and that's not, awesome. and having it not be someone's mom or dad, like having it just be someone that's my friend. Yeah. You know, and because I've met so many, I'm very interested in people. I love meeting creative people, whether that means they're creative professionally, whether creative in their mind, whether they, you know, I love that feeling of getting into a conversation with someone.
Yeah, I also think multi-generational friendships are so powerful. Like I was talking to someone about that. Like me and my wife have a couple friend of ours, and they're in their late 60s, and they're some of our favorite people to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I learn so much, I grow so much, I gain so much perspective. They've lived 30 years more life than I have.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's so interesting how we may spend time with our parents, but we're not necessarily having friends that are in a different decade of their life.
Yeah.
But how powerful it can be to be with someone.
A lot of people don't even know their parents like that. Like even if you're like close with your parent, like how close are you with your mom?
I'm pretty close to my mom, yeah.
Okay, but like you don't know. There's so many things you don't know about her. Like you don't know like how she felt the first time she got her heart broken.
Yeah.
You don't know like if she ever cheated on someone. Like you don't like sometimes I'll sit my mom down and I just ask her like I'm like, what drugs have you taken?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did it make you feel? Because my parents got divorced. I was like, how did you know you wanted to get divorced? What did you feel? And I try to do that because one of my friends started recording his dad when his dad got sick. And he asked him every question he ever wanted to ask him because it is so crazy. You're so close to this person that you really don't know. Like we really don't even know our parents that well because you don't ask them those type of things and no one does. Like, and it's also that time where I remember like your parents' gospel is just like the end all be all when you're a kid. And then all of a sudden you're like 15 or 16. You're like, wait, you're just a human. That was a mess up on you. You just lied. Like I caught you in that lie. But like until you're like 15 or 16 or something, you can't even fathom that. And then like you realize it's cool. I'm so thankful that I get to like, talk to my parents and my family now, like as an adult and be like, yo, what were you feeling like when you went through this? And like, how did you raise us like that? And is it so hard to do this? And it's cool. I like that feeling.
Yeah, I did something similar. A few years ago, I felt that way with the podcast where I was like learning about people I'd never met. And so we were celebrating my sister's 30th birthday. So it was me, my mom, and my sister, my younger sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started interviewing my mom at dinner. And we didn't record it. Yeah. It was just us three. And I learned so much. So my mom was studying for her exams because she was born and raised in Yemen, while there were Yemeni soldiers fighting British soldiers on her roof.
That's
like,
great.
And I was like, I had no idea. And she just casually drops that as if it's like normal. And I'm like, Mom, you realize that's not normal. Like,
you should interview your mom. You need to interview.
I've been thinking about it. It's been on my mind.
Interviewing your family is so crazy.
Yeah, because you're right. And I think I would love to do it because I want everyone to do it. My wife was my first ever guest on the show.
Really?
Yeah, because that was a big part of it for me. It was like, I feel like you're so right. We don't really deeply know our family when we think we know them.
Yeah.
We think we know them. We assume that we know them.
Yeah, I used to do this thing on my, I still do it on all of my albums where like the last song on my album has like a spoken word section of, it's like over instrumental of each person in my family. And so far I did my mom and my dad, and I asked them all these questions.
Wow.
And it's crazy to know because I asked them questions for like an hour and then I take like the best like 30 seconds. And it was both my parents wound up talking the most about like their divorce. And it was like so interesting to see both sides of it because I have now forever in time, I have my mom's version and my dad's version. And then like I'm putting out a new album and I interview my brother for his version of it now. And it's like
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's really special.
It's fun. And it's like, it's emotional and it's like, whoa. It's cool to hear both sides of everyone's side of an event.
I think you're so right because we often think there's only one truth and one story, and then all of a sudden there's three. And what was the biggest thing you learned from hearing your mom and dad's version of divorce? Like, what was something that surprised you, or something you were like, wow, I did not recognize that when I was growing up?
I think that it made them both better people to get out of the relationship. And I think like at first it seemed like my parents were not fans of each other at first. It was like crazy, but now they're friends. I mean, they haven't been married for, 20 something years, but yeah, now we all like go to dinner together and like go on vacation. But it wasn't always that way. And it's cool to see like where it started to where it is now. And I do think like me and my brother like were a big like our success was like a big catalyst on getting like everyone together because it forced us to get together. And then and no, it's cool. I don't know. Life is so crazy. Like the way you meet people and the way people come in and out of your life, and someone you may not even like really know could become like your wife, or someone like that's like you despise could become your best friend. And it's very interesting
Yeah.
how life plays out. And
Yeah.
I find that more and more as I get older. And my mom always used to be like, she'd be like, you know, when you get older, you're gonna, and I used to be like, what are you talking? But it's so true. Just like over and over again, I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true, man. Benny, I could talk to you for hours. Genuinely. Like we could go on and on and on, but I wanted to make sure, is there anything that we haven't talked about before we go to the final five, which is the way we end any interviews? Is there anything we haven't talked about that you really wanted to touch on that's on your heart or mind, or something that...
What's your 5 thing? What's that?
Yeah, we can do that. We'll
What
start
is
with that. It's a final 5 that we end every interview with of all time.
Oh, it's the same question?
It's the same 4 questions. One of them I usually play with. Same 3 or 4 questions.
Oh, okay.
And one of them I usually play with for the person. And these are your final 5. They have to be answered in 1 word to 1 sentence maximum.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I may ask you to go on because I usually break my rule. But
okay.
Here we go. All right. Benny Blanco, these are your final 5. So the first question is, what is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Don't be afraid to fail.
Who told you it, and how have you practiced it?
I can't remember who told me it, but
someone did tell you it.
Yeah,
it wasn't something that came
no. Somebody told me it, but I will tell you this. I always say this to someone because people come up to me all the time and they're just like, "Oh man, you don't miss. You did this. You did that."
Yeah.
And I'll talk to someone. One of my friends was going through a hard time recently. It was like his first failures, and I remember talking to him, and I said, "You don't think I've failed a million times?" I said, "You look at someone like Michael Jordan, okay? He's taken like so many shots. He's missed so many shots. Do you remember any of those? No. You remember him swishing it and walking back with his tongue out. Nobody's sitting there being like, Jay, I saw that, back in like 2008, that rap career didn't really work out for you. No, they're like, Jay, wow, you got Michelle Obama on you. So I always tell people, like, it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to fail. Nobody's even going to remember it. And if someone's literally tallying your failures, they're psycho.
Well said, man. Yeah, no one remembers the misses.
No
one remembers the misses. If you keep going.
Yeah, if you
stop at the miss.
But you got to keep going, baby.
You got to keep going. Question number 2, what is the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
I was going around playing my music for people, and I had just switched my style up. Because I originally made music that sounded like I was copying Timbaland, sounded like I was copying Pharrell, sounded like I was trying to be someone else. And I remember I had just made music that didn't sound like anything. It sounded so weird. It was so different. Wasn't like what was going on. I remember I went into a meeting and someone was like, nobody makes music like this. They're like, you gotta fit in more. Like, and that just like made me go the opposite way. Then I was like, now I know I got to do the crazy stuff, because at least I just want someone, when I used to go in and play music, for them to be like, I've never heard anything like this. Like, this is so weird. This is not going to work. Because that's when everyone likes something, usually that means it's not going to work. When some people are unsure about something, that's when it's usually going to work. So I don't know. Someone told me to fit in more, and I didn't really vibe with that.
That's a great answer. I think it's so interesting. When you're young, everyone tells you to fit in, and when you get older, everyone says stand out.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, I had to wear uniform, I had to come in on time, and now all of a sudden I've got to find who I am.
Yeah.
And it's such a contradiction.
Of course.
Yeah, so great answer. All right, question number 3. What's something that you used to value that you no longer value?
Success. I used to really care about getting that #1 song, getting that thing. And I feel like I I feel like I did everything I wanted to do.
Mm,
Like, and now I feel like everything's like the cherry on top of the sundae now.
mm,
So I'm just having so much fun trying new things. And of course I want them to be successful and stuff, but like I don't have I do still like work and have a drive and want to do it, but I want to do it more for me and
mm,
less for like other people. I used to want to do it because I was like, I have to be number one. I have to be the best in the world. I have to be this. And now I just get to wake up and I'm like, okay, I already did the things I want to do. So like I want to make a cookbook. I want to do it. I want to do this. And I like really want it to be the best and I want it to be awesome. But it's something that I want to do. And I'm putting like that pressure on myself. It's not like for other people anymore. And yeah, I think I don't know. It's I and I always had a strange feeling with success too. I was always like kind of like ashamed of it for some reason,
mm.
or I'd be like, "Oh, I don't deserve that. I'm probably gonna get like cancer now because like I did because I did well. So
Yeah,
like I don't
yeah.
deserve this, and like somebody else deserves this more." And like,
How did you overcome that doubt? Because I think a lot of people feel that way. People
uh,
who come into money, fame, even a bit of success, and we start going, "Oh crap, this wasn't meant to be."
yeah,
Like,
it's still there for me. That part I still have that feeling a little bit of the imposter syndrome, but it's so funny because I'm so confident at the same time. But sometimes I do have that feeling where I'm just like, like why do I deserve this? Like what did I do? And like there's so many more people who are more talented than, and I'll like start questioning stuff like that in my head.
yeah, and you're still working through that. Still
Yeah,
trying.
every day we're working
Yeah,
through everything. And the success thing, like it's not fully let go, but it's like it's something that like I catch myself more and more like just really wanting to do the things because like it's not a competition always anymore. And it used to be like such a competition with me in my head
yeah.
with that. And I try to find like other things that are competitions and like competitions like that are like friendly and there's not like a huge thing at the end of the tunnel for it.
Mm, beautiful. Question number 4. What's something that you think you learned from your parents' relationship that affects your relationships moving forwards? Like something that you'll take as a lesson on what to do or what not to do.
I don't think my parents listened to each other. And I think all relationships, whether it's romantic, business, friendships, you just have to listen to each other. It's like the easiest thing in the world. Just be a listener and it's okay to be wrong. Like that's also another thing that like I've really come to terms with. Like it's like I always would find myself like wanting to be right about the thing, wanting to be this. And it almost makes you look better if you're like, "You know what? I was wrong." And stop trying to like defend a thing to the end that you know you're wrong about. So it's like, I was wrong. I was wrong. And then like everyone's happy if you just say if you're like, "I was wrong. I messed up. I
Mm,
messed up." Instead of like trying, it's like putting shame around being wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. Like it's okay to fuck up sometimes. Like,
mm.
you
Yeah,
know,
I think that's great. Listen, and it's okay to be wrong.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay to be wrong.
Fifth and final question, Benny. We ask this to every guest who's ever been on the show. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
I wish there was a world where just everyone could find a way to just like fit in and just like not be it's okay to get upset sometimes. I just wish people could talk things out and find a way to like love each other and find I don't know, find a way to like live together. It just
Mm,
like killed me. Like anytime it's so hard for me to ever watch any of the news and it's just like, oh, I'm like it just like crushes me watching people fight and people like violence and it's like crazy. Like I don't understand. I just like don't even I don't know people, to like for someone to do something so bad to like an innocent like anytime I see things like that, I just don't understand. And I in my ideal world, I don't even know if it's a law. I don't people just be nice to each other and just be like caring and considerate and understand that it's okay to not be the same as somebody else, and it's okay to not have the exact same opinion as somebody else, but you guys can coexist and live, and just like I don't know. It's like I always have these like idealistic thoughts in my
Yeah.
head, and it's very hard to create those because we're so far gone as a planet. You know, there's like so much greed and there's so much, I don't know. I've always been like just like happy, whether it was like I had a lot of money or no money. And I've always found that when me and my friends listen to each other and work together and talk things out, like like nothing can go wrong. And if it does go wrong, then you talk about it and you make it better. And I don't know. What's the best law you heard someone say?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a lot of people share the sentiment that you're saying. Like, I think a lot of us feel like that. Like, we want to live in a more just, happier, loving kind of world. I think two that stand out to me, Daniel Kaluuya came on. He's the guy, you know. So Daniel came on and he said that for everyone that you judged or criticized, the law would be that you'd have to then, whoever you judge and criticize, you'd have to go live as them for a day or a year or something like that.
Oh, I like that.
It was like a fixed thing. And then Trevor Noah had one. His one was there'd be a rule that every day someone's bank balance in the planet could go to zero. So it could be you, your friend, your family member, and how differently you'd behave with people, knowing that that could be you one day. It could be your mom, it could be your dad, it could be a friend, and that way you'd be more conscious of what it would feel like to be around people who don't have a lot. Yeah,
I changed mine. Free weed for everyone. That's
the law.
Yeah. That's my new one.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Is weed unlock your creativity? Does it make you anxious, as you were mentioning for other people earlier? Like,
I love smoking weed.
Yeah.
You are you allowed to? No, you're not.
I don't.
You don't do anything.
Not that I'm not allowed to.
You don't do anything. No. You ever have a sip of alcohol?
No, not anymore.
When'd you quit? When you were a monk?
15 years ago, yeah. 15, 16 years
ago. What do you do? What's your wild thing?
My wild thing is
strippers. I know it. No, I'm just kidding. No, what is it?
I guess my wildness comes. I'm super competitive. So if I'm playing a sport that I'm good at,
no, come on, give me like what's your vice?
My vice is sugar, man. It's like it's taking me
sugar?
Forever. Yeah, literally.
Sugar.
I'm like, yeah.
That's your vice.
My vice is sugar. My vice is I like to work hard. My vice is.
So, but you don't have anything. So you don't.
Well, no, it's not that I don't have anything. I've worked on it hard. For years and years.
So
and
no
years.
drinking, no weed, no psychedelics, no.
No, I
saw your eye glimmer a little.
I'm always open to exploring anything that would. I mean, weed was something that I did a lot in my teens, so it's not something I've never done.
I want to know the teen you. The teen you was wild.
Yeah, the teen you was wild. I think that's what it is. Like growing up in London too. Like you start drinking very early.
Of course.
You start playing around with drugs and stuff very early, and so we just had access to a lot of things. So I feel like it's not that I don't. It's that I've done a lot in my teens.
Of course.
And so it's not that I have and I have nothing against it. I think I'm always open to things that have medicinal or healing benefits. So I've always been open. A lot of my clients will do MDMA, do iboga, do ayahuasca, and so I'm very familiar with these things, and I'm always working alongside clinical neuroscientists that I take advice from for my clients and clients' own exploration. So I'm very aware and like to be educated more and get more experience, but I would do it if I felt there was healing that could reward me with, for sure. I'm very open to anything that has healing powers.
You take any supplements?
I take I take 20 supplements a day.
All right, tell me about the supplements.
Yeah, so I'm taking, I'll show you my drawer later. It's like literally 20 tablets a day, but it's like B12, magnesium, D, C, K, probiotics, gut supplements, creatine, like a million
Why do you
things.
Take them all?
Because I really do feel a difference.
Wait, why do you take creatine? That's like from the 80s.
Yeah, but it works. It's like, so what's really interesting is that we've had the doctor that I work with on the show. His name's Dr. Shah. He runs Next Health.
Okay.
And Next Health basically will do the deepest blood tests and give you like...
Oh yeah, you do that thing where you have like a bowl of pills you got to take. It's like a packet every day.
Yeah, and you get all your biomarkers. So you get everything. And what I found is that different body types can't digest certain things. Like my body can't get the nutrients from certain things. So I have to eat different proteins. I'm also plant-based. So the supplements provide me with all the missing nutrients. So
were you feeling bad before you did this?
I was feeling when I wasn't taking all the supplements, I was feeling more tired more easily.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, why am I tired? Because I work out, I sleep well, I meditate. Why am I tired?
What type of tired?
Just like a feeling of like lethargy or fatigue at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
But like a tired that I didn't like. Yeah. And I realized that, so vitamin D is meant to be at 60 is safe, 100 is ideal. I was at 10. And people always say, well, you live in LA, you get enough vitamin D. It's not true. Like, you've got to be out in the sun naked like for 4 hours a day to get enough vitamin D, especially with my color of skin. And so for me to take vitamin D is non-negotiable. And for most people are low in vitamin D. And so my nutrition was saying, Jay, your vitamin D levels means you should be depressed. I was like, I don't feel depressed, I'm just tired. And she was just like, well, you know, if you change that, it will make a massive difference. And it did. Wow. And so I think a lot of the times we think we're struggling mentally, but a lot of it's chemical and biological and physical. What you're saying with working out. Yeah. Right? Like, it's a physical shift that's changed your mindset. And we can get in our head and think, oh God, why am I tired? There's something wrong with me. Like, maybe I'm stressed. And it can be that. Of course it can be that. But sometimes it's chemical and physical. So
you take 20 supplements a day.
I'll show you. Yeah. I'll show you my little pill drawer.
What, do you do any other things?
No, that's it.
Do you drink any other tinctures through the day that you have to?
No. Well, creatine is, I have to mix it in and then.
But why do they have you do creatine?
That's for me to digest a particular nutrient for my digestion to be good. I also take...
do you have trouble? You have bad stomach?
Not a bad stomach. I think that when I went completely plant-based, which I always tell people if they're making that transition, I always tell people to do it slowly. I kind of did it overnight.
When?
8 years ago when I married my wife, I was vegetarian, but I became plant-based as soon as I married her. And I think that my gut reacted poorly to that quick transition. And so whenever anyone's talking about being plant-based or eating healthier, I'm always like, do it slowly because your body's just used to a habit, whether it's good or bad. And now I feel great, but it was a transitionary period for sure. So I do that. And then I have vinegar before meals because that regulates the acid internally. So that's like mix a shot of vinegar with diluted in water. And
do you take like a lot of protein a day?
Yeah, I take a lot of protein, but a lot of protein meals, but like natural forms of as much as I can.
Wow, what's your natural protein?
Well, like I'm doing a lot of lentils and dals. Like the Indian diet generally leads well to that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I will do things like tofu, which of course, you know, and then not so natural forms of protein as well. Yeah. Like I found these amazing bagels that are protein filled, that are plant-based. They're amazing. So things like that, just to stock up. But I found that eating protein every day has made a big difference. The amount of protein that we don't have in our diets is insane. And I'm not a pro at this. We've had doctors who've come on the show and really educate people.
Yeah, you're supposed to eat a gram of protein per a pound.
Yeah. And you realize you're like nowhere close. Like even if you're eating meat, it's hard. So what to speak of anyone who's plant-based. Benny, this has been a joy, an honor. I hope we do a part 2.
I love it.
I hope there's dinners. I hope there's so much more in the works with this
I can't wait.
Relationship. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Like, you took us on a whole journey today, and I felt like we got a peek into your mind, which is always my favorite thing to do.
Thanks.
I want everyone to know Open Wide is available right now, so make sure you go grab it. We'll put the link in the caption, in the comments, and wherever you're viewing. Of course, if you don't follow Benny on social media already, please go and follow him across platforms. And Benny, thank you so much for showing up for On Purpose today. So grateful and deeply appreciated, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. If this is the year that you're trying to get creative, you're trying to build more, I need you to listen to this episode with Rick Rubin on how to break into your most creative self, how to use unconventional methods that lead to success, and the secret to genuinely loving what you do. If you're trying to find your passion and your lane, Rick Rubin's episode is the one for you.
Just because I like it, that doesn't give it any value. Like, as an artist, if you like it, that's all of the value. That's the success comes when you say, I like this enough for other people to see it.